have a lot of clients who have adopted 2030 goals. And one of the questions we get very frequently is, when do I need to reevaluate a goal? What if it looks like I'm not going to hit my target, or maybe I will hit my target, but I don't have sufficient progress now to report? Am I greenwashing? How do we advise clients under those circumstances?
Yeah, so it's important to emphasize that there is just this inherent tension built into target setting. When we're talking about climate targets, these are often very forward-looking in scope, but also there is an extreme pressure on companies to set the most ambitious targets possible. And practically speaking, I think most people understand that meeting those targets, whether at the company or global level, is very often unrealistic. And unfortunately, the reality is, because most target years are 2030 as opposed to 2024, 2023, this isn't a circumstance where companies can look around and say, well, this is what 100 peers did when they were in a similar circumstance. That being said, there are some best practices that we're beginning to see in the market. And really the key watchword here is disclosure. Companies need to make sure that they're being transparent with investors and other stakeholders, that they're providing regular updates on their progress towards their target, but also providing updated disclosure on their strategy for achieving their target. So it's clear to the public and the particular stakeholders what the company is trying to do, but also what their challenges are. And so what we see some companies doing is really being a bit more explicit about that and saying, we set this target, we want it to have the highest ambition possible, but we no longer think this is going to be as achievable as we thought it was 4 or 5 years ago.
I think definitely from the EU perspective as well, transparency is going to be key, and just being comfortable with your targets. Any sustainability targets you have will be part of your CSRD report. So just companies really understanding that and being comfortable to describe the strategy that they have to meet their targets and to describe progress against the targets. And that's something that we're finding, if clients are perhaps not comfortable with that, then now is a really good time to be revising their targets or reviewing them.
Yeah, and helping them draft disclosure that is transparent. And to your point, are they comfortable including that, right, in their public filings? And if not, then we should probably be having a conversation about what their targets and goals are.
One key thing that I think every company should be able to articulate is why you set the target in the first place, why this was a reasonable target for you to set in 2024 based on expectations you had at the time, but then to be able to explain how those expectations changed. What's more problematic is when companies set a target without really any ability to articulate why they did so in the first place. And so when you're at the beginning of the process and you're establishing your target and making those initial disclosures and making the announcement that, hey, we've set an SBTI target, it's important to be able to explain why that made sense at that time.
I think companies now are learning that sustainability needs to be integrated more into their business operations and strategy, right? A lot of these targets were set at a time where you may have had a chief sustainability officer that really didn't have kind of integrated conversations with the business owners. And as a result, a lot of the targets just aren't compatible with the business strategy or operations. So I do think that the integrated approach today is helpful.